I raised him in my arms when he was barely alive. Then one morning, he was gone. I thought he'd chosen the wild over me. He came to me in a cardboard box on a Tuesday morning, 3 weeks old, maybe 4, eyes barely open, matted fur, ribs showing through his skin. A stray cat had abandoned her litter behind the veterinary clinic where I worked as a technician, and by the time someone found them, he was the only one still breathing. Shallow, fragile breaths that barely moved his tiny chest. The vet took one look and shook her head. "Sometimes the kindest thing," she said softly, but I couldn't do it, not without trying. I took him home that night, fed him with a syringe every 2 hours, kitten formula, warm to body temperature, 1 drop at a time. I wrapped him in a soft towel and kept him against my chest while I answered emails, made dinner, folded laundry. He needed my heartbeat, my warmth. Without it, he wouldn't regulate his own body temperature, wouldn't know he was safe enough to keep fighting. The first 3 nights, I barely slept, just listened to him breathe. On the 4th morning, he opened his eyes all the way and looked up at me, really looked, and I felt something shift inside my chest. This wasn't just a rescue anymore. This was something else entirely. I named him Scout. By 8 weeks, he was running laps around my living room, pouncing on dust particles in the sunlight, climbing the curtains, knocking my coffee mug off the counter, just to watch it fall. He'd sleep at the foot of my bed every night, one paw stretched out toward me, like he was making sure I was still there. I'd wake up sometimes and find him staring at me in the dark, just watching, trusting. Every rescue worker knows this moment is coming, when love means letting go. I started letting him outside during the day when he turned 4 months old. Just the yard at first, under supervision. Then a little farther, he'd disappear into the trees for an hour, maybe 2, and always come back by dusk, tail high, eyes bright, mud on his paws. He'd sit on the porch and meow at the door until I let him in, then curl up on the couch like nothing had happened. I told myself this was progress, that I was raising him right, giving him the skills he'd need, the independence, the confidence, that I was preparing him for a life beyond me. Then one afternoon in late September, he didn't come back. I waited on the porch until the sun dropped behind the hills, called his name into the growing dark, shook the treat bag, knocked on his food bowl with a spoon, the sound that always brought him running. Nothing. I walked the property with a flashlight, checked every bush, every hollow log, every low branch he used to climb when he was little. I called until my voice went hoarse. No sign of him. The next day I walked farther, down the gravel road, through the woods behind the neighbor's property. I knocked on doors, left food out on the porch, sat outside until midnight, listening for the sound of him moving through the leaves. Still nothing. A week became 2. 2 became a month. I kept his blanket folded on the couch where he used to sleep, kept his food bowl on the kitchen counter, washed and waiting. I'd catch myself glancing out the window at dusk, listening for his meow, expecting him to come trotting out of the trees like he always had, but he never did. I told myself this was success. He'd grown strong. He'd learned to hunt. He'd chosen independence over safety, freedom over comfort. That's what you want when you raise something wild, right? For them to not need you anymore. But it felt like grief. It felt like I'd done something wrong, let him go too soon, trusted his instincts before they were ready. I replayed every decision, every moment I'd opened that door. I stopped checking the tree line every morning, stopped leaving the porch light on at night. The food bowl collected a thin layer of dust. His blanket stopped smelling like him. 5 weeks passed, then 6. I started to accept it, started to let go. He was gone, and he wasn't coming back. Then one evening, just after sunset, I heard a sound outside my door, and it wasn't just him. I opened the door, and there he was, older, bigger, his coat thicker and wilder, his movements sharper, more controlled. He stood at the edge of the porch, just outside the circle of light, watching me the way wild things do, cautious, alert, calculating distance and risk. But it was him. I knew those eyes. "Scout," I whispered. My throat tightened, my hands shook. "You came back." He didn't move toward me, didn't meow, didn't step into the light. He just stared for a long moment, then turned his head and looked back toward the dark yard. That's when I realized he wasn't here for comfort. He took 3 deliberate steps away from the porch, stopped, and looked at me again, ears forward, waiting. My heart pounded. What is it? He turned and walked farther, slowly, purposefully, kept glancing back to make sure I was following. I grabbed my phone for the flashlight and stepped off the porch. The grass was wet with dew. The air smelled like cedar and cold earth. He led me across the yard, past the garden shed, past the fire pit. His pace was controlled. He wasn't running. He was guiding. We stopped near the woodpile at the edge of the property. He sat, ears forward, body tense, eyes locked on a narrow gap between 2 stacked logs. I crouched down slowly, aimed the light into the shadows, and there they were, 3 tiny kittens, maybe 2 weeks old, eyes still closed. curled together in a tangle of orange and grey fur, their little sides rising and falling with soft, fragile breaths. I froze. My mind raced. Where did they come from? Where was their mother? I looked at Scout. He was watching me, but he wasn't relaxed. His muscles were coiled, ready. He'd positioned himself directly between me and the kittens, close enough to intervene if I made the wrong move. And then I understood. He didn't come back for me. He came back for them. He remembered. After 6 weeks, after choosing the wild, after disappearing into a life I couldn't follow, he remembered where safety was, where warmth was, where help had come from, when he was too small and fragile to survive on his own, and when his own family needed it most. He brought them back to the only place he knew could protect them. Tears blurred my vision. "Okay," I said softly, barely holding my voice steady. "Okay, buddy, I've got them." I went inside and moved quickly, but quietly. Grabbed a shallow cardboard box, a heating pad, clean towels. I warmed the pad to low, lined the box, made it soft. When I came back outside, Scout was still there, still watching. I knelt beside the woodpile and spoke in a low, calm voice. "I'm going to help them, just like I helped you." I reached in carefully, so carefully, and lifted the first kitten. It made a tiny sound, barely a squeak. I placed it gently in the warm box. Scout's ears flicked back, but he didn't move. I lifted the second, then the third. He watched every motion, every breath, but he didn't stop me. I carried the box into the mudroom and set it up in the corner, away from drafts. Warm, safe, quiet. I left the door cracked 6 inches. When I came back outside, Scout was still standing in the same spot, watching the house. "You can come in if you want," I said. "The door's open." He didn't, but over the next 3 weeks he stayed close, not inside, not curled up on the couch like before, but near. On the porch rail at dawn, in the garden at dusk, by the shed in the afternoon. He'd slip through the cracked mudroom door every day. I'd hear him, soft footsteps, the faint rustle of towels. He'd circle the box once, sniff each kitten, then leave as quietly as he'd come. I fed them every few hours, kept them clean, watched them grow stronger. Their eyes opened, blue, then green. They started wobbling around the box on unsteady legs, started swatting at each other, started purring. Scout watched too, from the doorway, from the shadows. He never stayed long, but he always came back. And then one morning, in early November, they were gone. All 4 of them. The box was empty, the towels undisturbed, the door still cracked. No noise, no struggle, just gone. I stepped outside into the cold dawn air, and there he was, standing at the edge of the trees, backlit by the rising sun, the 3 kittens stumbling after him in a crooked, wobbling line, learning to walk on uneven ground, learning to follow. Scout stopped, turned around. Our eyes met across the yard. He didn't meow, didn't come closer, didn't ask for anything. He just looked at me for a long, quiet moment, and I swear I saw it. Recognition, gratitude, something I can't name but felt in every bone. Then he turned and walked into the trees. The kittens followed, tails high, disappearing into the golden light. I stood there for a long time after they were gone. The yard was silent, except for the wind. I thought I'd raised him to survive without me, but what I really gave him was a place worth coming back to. Not just shelter, not just food, but the memory of safety, the knowledge that kindness exists. That when the world gets too big and too dangerous, there's still one place where the door stays cracked open, where love doesn't ask for anything in return, just waits and welcomes you home.